There's a strange comfort in not knowing where you come from. Most people think the opposite. They crave roots history, something ancient to hold on to. But sometimes, the past holds on to you instead. What you're about to hear was sent anonymously to our channel, accompanied by a single phrase. They said, "I was chosen." The sender included records, emails, ticket stubs, medical notes, everything suggesting that what happened might be real. Whether you believe that or not is up to you. This is the story of a man who tried to trace his bloodline and found something waiting for him in it. Tonight on NightLore, we bring you the Blue Hill Tribe. I never used to think much about my blood. Not in the metaphorical sense, more literally. Whatever was passed down to me, whatever invisible code made up my body, I had always assumed it was just ordinary. I'd been a sickly child, fragile lungs, a stomach that rebelled against the simplest food skin that bruised at the whisper of a bump. Doctors called it bad luck, bad genes. My parents just called it, "You got that from your grandfather." I never met him. My father barely remembered him either. He died when Dad was 6, and my grandmother remarried a few years later. That whole side of the family became a ghost one that nobody seemed willing to talk about. On my 31st birthday, my friends thought they were being clever. They pulled together to buy me one of those heritage DNA kits. You know, the kind swab your mouth, mail it off, and get a colorful pie chart telling you what percent of your blood came from where. They thought it would be fun. I laughed and said, "Sure, why not?" I wasn't expecting anything interesting. I was born in Minnesota, and both sides of my family had lived in the same patch of American soil for longer than anyone could trace. Still, there was something almost comforting about the process, spitting in a tube, sealing it, sending it away. It was like throwing a message in a bottle into the ocean, asking, "Who am I really?" Weeks passed. I forgot about it. And then one evening, the email arrived. It was all exactly as predictable as I'd expected. 62% Western European, a modest slice of English, a touch of French. And then, something I didn't recognize. 11% marked in blue Northern Scandinavian, Blue Hill Tribe. I frowned at the words. They sounded invented. I'd studied enough world history to know the Sami, the Finns, the Norse, but never a Blue Hill Tribe. At first, I thought it might be a software error, some database quirk, or a placeholder name. But when I tried to search it, the browser results were sparse. Just a few vague mentions on amateur genealogy, blogs, half of them copy-pasting from one another. No Wikipedia page, no anthropology records, nothing verifiable. That night, curiosity outweighed common sense. I called my parents. My mother laughed. Blue Hill Tribe. Sounds like a brand of bottled water. My dad went quiet. After a moment, he said, "That'd have to be on my father's side, I guess." But he was from Oklahoma, not exactly Scandinavia. We hung up both unsettled by how little we actually knew. By the next morning, Dad had ordered his own DNA test, half joking, half suspicious. A few days later, while sorting the test packaging into recycling, I noticed something I'd missed the first time. A smaller envelope wedged between the instruction booklet and a cardboard spacer. It was thick, sealed with navy wax, pressed into the shape of a sunflower. It smelled faintly chemical sweet like ammonia or hospital disinfectant. My name was written on the front in looping cursive congratulations on your recent results. The letter inside was brief. As part of our ongoing exploration of unified human heritage and in cooperation with several international partners, we are pleased to invite you to an exclusive cultural event for descendants of the Northern Scandinavian Blue Hill tribe. The event will take place in Manchester, New Hampshire. Please use the enclosed access code to register at your earliest convenience. We look forward to celebrating your unique lineage. I stared at it for a long time. There was a website link, a code, even a customer support number. It looked official, too official. I told myself it had to be some kind of marketing stunt, an upsell tactic. But curiosity has teeth, and that night I bit down hard. The website wasn't one of those generic scammy pages you'd expect. It was sleek, corporate. The logo matched the one from my DNA test kit. When I entered my code, a personalized portal opened, congratulating me again and offering details of a 3-day heritage celebration. Accommodation paid for, flights not included. The itinerary listed seminars, historical showcases, connection sessions, and something called the Gathering of the Northern Line. It all looked harmless, sterile, professional, almost boring. And yet, there was that word again, Blue Hill, a phrase I couldn't trace attached to a history that didn't seem to exist. For a while, I debated deleting the email. But then I thought about my father, about how he'd ordered his test too. If this was connected somehow to a missing branch of our family tree, maybe it was worth investigating. I registered. Manchester greeted me with grey skies and the smell of wet pavement. The hotel stood tall and glassy beside a dying mall, one of those modern chains where every floor looks identical, every carpet patterned to hide stains. Check-in was uneventful. The clerk smiled a little too widely when I gave her my name. "You're here for the heritage event?" she asked. When I nodded, she handed me a lanyard and keycard without a word more. Upstairs, my room was immaculate, almost too clean, the kind of clean that feels erased. I unpacked, opened the curtains, and stared out at the parking lot, feeling unmoored. The conference hall downstairs wasn't open yet, so I wandered the lobby. There were a few posters taped to pillars, blue and gold banners, bearing the event's title, celebrating the hidden tribes of humanity. The guest list, if the chatter in the halls was any indication, was international. I overheard fragments of conversation in German, Finnish, Tagalog, Spanish. There was an odd blend of people, tech workers in suits, students, retirees, even a young couple pushing a stroller. Still, there was one common thread. Everyone wore the same faint expression of confusion. No one seemed to know exactly what they were there for. That night my phone buzzed. A message from my father. Got my results. Nothing Scandinavian. No Blue Hill. Weird. My stomach sank. If he didn't have it, that meant whatever Blue Hill was, it hadn't come from him. Or it wasn't real. I fell asleep, uneasy. The next morning, the conference began. The ballroom doors opened onto a flood of sound, and light rows of booths and banners, each labeled with some obscure ethnicity or ancient migration pattern. Volunteers handed out glossy brochures, each printed in that same company blue. There were stations for Carpathian Highlanders, Earl Mountain clans, South Baltic wanderers. But nowhere, not once, did I see Blue Hill tribe. I asked one of the representatives at a booth. She blinked, confused. "I'm sorry. I don't think we have material on that one," she said, glancing at my lanyard. Another worker leaned close, whispered something to her, and she quickly corrected herself. Actually, yes, there's an information session tonight. Part of the Tribes of the North meetup." Her tone had changed, rehearsed, like she'd been reminded what to say. I nodded, thanked her, and moved on. The rest of the day passed in a blur of polite lectures and lukewarm coffee. But beneath it all ran a strange current of expectancy. People glancing at one another, smiling too long, whispering about something special scheduled after dinner. When evening came, I followed the crowd into a smaller side hall. 24 of us, maybe more. The door closed behind us with a soft click. A woman in a black suit stood at the front, young, cheerful company pin gleaming on her lapel. "Welcome, everyone," she said brightly. "It's so wonderful to see the descendants of the Blue Hill tribe gathered together again." Again. The word landed oddly. She went around the room, asking each of us to introduce ourselves and state our heritage percentage. The numbers ranged wildly from 3% to 30%. When it was my turn, I said 11. She smiled just a little too widely. "Perfect," she said. "That's right in the median range." Median range of what I wondered. We were given sheets of paper with our names already printed at the top. Next to each name was our percentage, followed by a long sequence of digits. The woman told us to check a box beside our entry and hand it back before we left. Then the presentation began. A man took the stage, tall, clean-shaven voice, smooth as glass. He introduced himself as Dr. Weston and began to speak about the Blue Hill people as if they were a well-documented culture. He mentioned that they lived in the high ridges of northern Scandinavia, isolated from the world for millennia. He described their craftsmanship, their spirituality, their belief in mountain spirits that walked among them. But there were no photographs, no artifacts, no dates, just vague poetry. It felt less like a lecture and more like rehearsal. And then he said something that caught the entire room off guard. "There's one thing every known descendant of the Blue Hill line has in common: an inherited fragility. Each of you has suffered in one way or another from a rare or chronic condition. Isn't that right?" The silence that followed was heavy. People began to nod. A man across from me mentioned his heart surgery. A woman spoke of nerve damage, another cornea implants. I stayed quiet, thinking of my ulcers. The childhood hospital stays the endless pills. The doctor smiled knowingly. "As expected," he said softly. "But you'll soon understand why. You're not broken. You're chosen." Something inside me went cold. When the lights came up, everyone clapped politely. We were reminded to check our attendance sheets and enjoy the evening's social hour. But my mind was elsewhere on those numbers beside our names and the strange, deliberate way the staff avoided eye contact. I folded the paper, slipped it into my pocket, and left. Outside the hall, a few staff members were speaking in low voices. I lingered just long enough to catch fragments. Thresholds 10%. Only the ripe ones. Forget the threes. That was enough for me. I went back to my room, packed my bag, and booked the earliest flight home. It wasn't until I was zipping my suitcase that I realized I'd left my keycard inside the pocket of my jacket, still hanging in the wardrobe. When I went to retrieve it, something caught my eye. The door, which I had closed firmly behind me, was slightly ajar. The gap in the door was no wider than an inch, but it felt like a scream. I was certain I'd locked it before leaving. I even remembered the soft click of the latch. Now it hung slightly open, as if someone had left in a hurry or wanted me to know they'd been there. I pushed it open slowly. The room looked untouched, too untouched. My suitcase lay on the bed where I'd left it, but the zipper was skewed. The TV was on, playing static, so quiet it sounded like breathing. I checked my jacket. The key card was still in the pocket, but my folded attendance sheet was gone. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on the edge of the bed, watching the red digits of the clock bleed through the dark. Sometime after 2 a.m., I heard footsteps in the hallway, measured, deliberate, passing my door twice before fading away. By morning, I'd convinced myself it was paranoia, sleep deprivation, the creeping anxiety of being far from home. But when I went down for breakfast, the woman from the night before, the one who'd led our tribal meeting, was waiting near the lobby. Leaving so soon, she asked. Her smile was perfect, but her eyes weren't. They were fixed on me, the way a cat watches a bird that's already half dead. I have an early flight, I said. That's unfortunate, she replied softly. We were hoping to see you at tonight's closing ceremony. I told her I was grateful for the experience, but needed to go. Her smile never wavered, though it no longer reached her cheeks. I think she said, it would be best for everyone if you stayed just a little longer. The way she said it made my blood turn to ice. Not a suggestion, an instruction. I tried to walk away. She followed me a few steps before whispering, You've been marked Mr. Lane. It's already begun. The rest of the day is a blur in my memory, perhaps mercifully so. At some point, a member of hotel security approached me near the exit, asking me to clarify a few things before I left. He smiled the way people smile when they don't want to scare you. They took my phone for verification. Then they guided me through a side corridor into a room that smelled faintly of paint thinner. Inside, there was nothing but a couch, a small table, and a painting of a mountain that looked vaguely familiar. When the door shut, I heard the lock slide from the outside. I tried the handle. It didn't move. Time dissolved. I don't know how long I sat there before they came back. The man who opened the door wasn't hotel staff. His suit was immaculate, his expression calm, in that way only money or madness can afford. He didn't introduce himself. He just looked at me and said, You're in pain, aren't you? I didn't answer. He nodded to himself, as if I'd confirmed something. It's the stomach, right? The ulcers. I read your file. Something inside me cracked. What the hell is this? Who are you people? We're family, he said. Distant but connected. The Blue Hill blood runs through you, Mr. Lane. It's been dormant too long. He stepped aside, gesturing toward the hall. Come, he said. It's time you met the others. I wanted to refuse. I wanted to fight. But something about the way he spoke, calm, patient, made resistance feel childish. So I followed. They led me through service corridors, past the kitchen, past a line of steel doors and flickering fluorescent lights. At the end of the hallway was a large walk-in freezer. The hum of the compressor filled the silence like a heartbeat. He opened the door. Inside were faces I recognized the others from the tribal meeting. Some were whispering prayers. Others just stared at the floor. The air was sharp enough to bite. I wanted to turn and run, but two people in black blocked the exit. The man in the suit stood in the doorway and folded his hands behind his back. Every generation, he said, the blood calls back what belongs to it. The Blue Hill line was not meant to mingle with others. We were something different, something more. He began pacing slowly. Your ancestors worshipped mountain spirits, immortal things that shed their flesh. When the tribe vanished, the bloodlines scattered. The fragments live on in you, and now it's time to return what was borrowed. A woman sobbed quietly. The man's eyes moved across us like a collector inspecting his items. He pulled a tablet from his coat pocket, reading from it as though it was scripture. male age 38, 6 years spread, 18% Blue Hill. He looked up, stepped forward. The man he called didn't move, so one of the guards did it for him, shoving him toward the center. What happened next? I wish I could tell myself it was a hallucination. The suited man raised his hand, and the air in the room seemed to buckle. The victim's body seized, throat bulging, eyes rolling wide. Something moved beneath his skin, rippled up through his neck before forcing its way out through his mouth. It looked like a root, wet, dark, pulsing. The man crumpled to the ground, lifeless, as the root withdrew back into the suited man's hand and vanished into his sleeve. He exhaled slowly, like someone catching their breath after a long run. 18% reclaimed, he murmured. Chaos erupted. People screamed, pounded on the walls, begged. He ignored them. Next he said, female 29, 14%. I don't know how long it went on. I only remember the sounds, the wet tearing, the snapping of ribs, the hum of the freezer mixing with the screams, until it all became one horrible tone. When he finally called my name, my legs barely held. 11%, he said. Ulcer implantation. That explains the concentration. Good. My stomach convulsed, as if something alive inside me recognized its master. I fell to my knees, clutching at myself. The man crouched in front of me, watching. You feel it, don't you? He whispered. It's waking. I remember babbling something. Nonsense, prayers, curses. My fingers brushed my pocket, and I felt a small hard shape inside. The battery from my phone. I had taken it out earlier, paranoid they were tracking me. Now I clutched it like a weapon. If you touch me, I rasped, I'll destroy it. Whatever this is, you'll lose it too. For the first time, he hesitated. I don't know why it worked. Maybe he needed me alive, or maybe the thing inside me needed time. But when his hand reached toward me, I bit down on the battery with all the force I had left. A spark, a pop. Pain like lightning exploded across my tongue and jaw. The man staggered back, covering his face. Something in the air cracked. The hum of the freezer sputtered. Lights flickered. I don't remember deciding to run, but I did. I slammed the door behind me and twisted the latch. The lock clicked, sealing them inside. Then I ran. Through corridors slick with condensation, through kitchens that smelled of bleach and meat. My ears rang with screams that might have been real or echoes of my own. When I burst through the service exit into the night, the air felt thick with frost and smoke. I didn't stop running until the hotel lights disappeared behind me. The police found me hours later, wandering the street, barefoot, my clothes stiff with blood. They said I was incoherent. When I tried to explain what had happened, they exchanged looks, took notes, and promised to look into it. According to their records, everyone from the event had checked out the next morning. No missing persons, no complaints. The company behind the DNA test denied hosting any such celebration. They released me after 2 days of observation. The psychiatrist called it a trauma-induced psychotic break. Maybe he was right. I wanted him to be right. But sometimes, late at night, when my stomach twists and I feel something move just beneath my ribs, I know he's wrong. It's not gone. It's waiting. I moved 3 times in the months that followed. Deleted my social media, changed my number, stopped answering unknown emails. But they still find me. Once an envelope arrived in the male blue cardboard sunflower seal. Inside was a single slip of paper. No message, just a new percentage, 14%. And yesterday, while watching a video online, an ad played before it. Smiling faces, families embracing connected by glowing blue ribbons of light, a cheerful voice saying, "Discover who you truly are." At the bottom corner of the screen, a logo appeared, a blue sunflower, and beneath it, in letters so small, I almost missed them, Blue Hill Genetic Heritage Generation 2. I closed my laptop. My stomach shifted a small, slow ripple beneath my skin. I whispered to no one, "It's already begun." And somewhere deep inside, something whispered back. Some stories end with a scream. Others end quietly, like a door closing softly behind you. Maybe you've taken one of those DNA tests yourself. Maybe your results came with a surprise, a forgotten ancestor, a distant land. Maybe you didn't think much of it. But if one night a letter arrives in the mail, sealed with blue wax, smelling faintly of chemicals, and it congratulates you for being different, do yourself a favor. Don't open it. Don't reply. And whatever you do, don't go looking for the Blue Hill tribe.